The morning sun rose over the human colony on Kepler 442b. The air was clean and the sky was purple instead of blue. 3,000 humans lived here now. They had built homes, schools, and farms. It was a good place to live. Commander Jake Morrison walked through the main street. He wore his blue uniform and carried his communication device. Jake was in charge of all the humans on this planet. He made sure everyone was safe and happy. The humans shared this world with the Galactic Council. The Council was made up of many alien races. They made the laws for all planets. On Kepler 442b, a Zalathi alien named Koreth Prime was the boss. He worked for the Council. Koreth Prime was tall and thin. His skin was gray like stone. His eyes were black and cold. He did not smile. He did not laugh. He only cared about following rules. That morning, 12-year-old Katie Sullivan ran down the street with her friends. Her red hair flew behind her as she ran. She was fast and strong. Her friend Ben Martinez ran beside her. Ben was 11 and very smart. He always asked questions about everything. Behind them came 6 other children. There was 8-year-old Emma Foster with her blonde curls, 9-year-old Tommy Chen who loved to climb trees, 10-year-old Sarah Johnson who could fix anything, 11-year-old Danny Brooks who told funny jokes, 7-year-old Lisa Parker who drew beautiful pictures, and 9-year-old Alex Williams who knew all about spaceships. The children were playing their favorite game. They pretended to be space explorers finding new worlds. They ran between the buildings and jumped over small walls. They laughed and shouted with joy. Katie stopped running near the center of town. In front of them stood a tall black stone. It had strange symbols carved into it. The stone was very old and very important to the Zalathi people. It told the story of their gods and their history. "What is that thing?" asked Ben. He walked closer to the stone. "I think it is some kind of alien statue," said Katie. She had never really looked at it before. Emma ran up to the stone. She put her small hands on it. "It feels cold," she said. "And look at these funny pictures." The other children gathered around the stone. They had seen it many times but never paid attention to it. Now they were curious. "Maybe it is a treasure map," said Tommy. He started to climb on the stone to see the top. "Be careful," said Sarah. But she was also excited to see what was up. There. Ben found a loose rock on the ground. He used it to trace the symbols on the stone. "I wonder what these mean," he said. Katie saw a small hole in the stone. She picked up a stick and poked it into the hole. "Maybe something is hidden inside," she said. The children were having fun. They climbed on the stone and touched the symbols. They tried to guess what the pictures meant. They imagined stories about alien gods and space battles. None of them knew that the stone was sacred to the Zalathi. None of them knew that touching it was against the law. They were just children playing and learning about their world. After an hour, the children got tired. They ran off to play other games. They left the stone behind and forgot about it, but someone had been watching them. Koreth Prime had seen everything from his office window. His black eyes grew angry. His thin hands made fists. The human children had touched the sacred stone of memory. They had climbed on it like it was a toy. They had poked it with sticks and rocks. This was a crime. A terrible crime. The stone held the memories of 1,000 generations of Zalathi. It was their most holy object. No one was allowed to touch it except for Zalathi priests. Koreth Prime called his guards. 3 tall Zalathi soldiers came to his office. They wore black armor and carried energy weapons. "Arrest the human children," he told them. "They have broken Galactic Law Code 4471. They have damaged our sacred stone." The guards nodded. They did not question orders. They went to find the children. Katie was at home eating lunch with her mother Lisa when the guards came. Lisa Sullivan was a teacher at the human school. She was kind and smart. She loved her daughter very much. The guards pounded on the door. Lisa opened it and saw the 3 tall aliens in black armor. "We are here for the child Katie Sullivan," said the lead guard. His voice was cold and hard. What? Why? Asked Lisa. She put her arm around Katie. She has broken galactic law. She must come with us now. There must be some mistake, said Lisa. Katie is just a child. She has not done anything wrong. But the guards did not care. They pushed past Lisa and grabbed Katie. The little girl cried out in fear. She did not understand what was happening. All over the colony, the same thing happened. The guards took Ben from his father, Carlos Martinez. They took Emma from her parents at the playground. One by one, they collected all 8 children. The parents tried to stop them. They shouted and cried, but the guards had the law on their side. The children had to come with them. Commander Morrison heard about the arrests on his radio. He ran to the town center where Koreth Prime was waiting. The alien stood straight and tall. His face showed no feeling. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded Morrison. "Why are you arresting our children?" "They have committed a crime," said Koreth Prime. "They damaged the sacred stone of memory. Under Galactic Law Code 44701, the punishment is 2 years of detention and forced labor." Morrison could not believe what he was hearing. "They are children. They did not know the stone was important. It was an accident." "Ignorance is not an excuse." "Under galactic law," said Koreth Prime, "the law applies to all beings regardless of age or species." "But they are just kids," said Morrison. "The oldest is only 12 years old. They were playing. Human children learn by exploring and touching things. It is how they grow and learn." Koreth Prime stared at Morrison with his cold black eyes. "Human customs do not matter. Only galactic law matters. The children will be taken to Detention Facility 7 on the moon, Kappa 3. They will serve their full sentence." Morrison felt sick. Detention Facility 7 was built for adult criminals. It was a hard place with small cells and basic food. The guards were rough and mean. It was no place for children. "Please," said Morrison, "let me contact Earth. Let me speak to the Galactic Council. There must be another way." "The matter is closed," said Koreth Prime. "The transport ship leaves in 1 hour." Morrison watched as the 8 human children were loaded onto a gray prison ship. They were scared and crying. Their parents stood behind a fence, unable to help. Katie looked back at her mother one last time before the ship doors closed. The ship lifted off into the purple sky. It grew smaller and smaller until it was just a dot among the stars. Then it was gone. Morrison activated his communication device. He sent an emergency message to Earth and all human. The news traveled fast through space. Commander Morrison's message reached Earth in 3 days. It also reached human ships and colonies across the galaxy. Everyone who heard it was shocked and angry. Captain Amy Richardson was on her ship called the UHS Endeavor when she got the message. Amy was a strong woman with short brown hair and green eyes. She had been exploring space for 10 years. She had met many alien races and made friends with most of them. Amy read the message 3 times. She could not believe what she was reading. 8 human children in prison for touching a stone while playing. The youngest was only 7 years old. "This is crazy," she said to her crew. They arrested children for being children. Dr. Peter Chang was Amy's science officer. He was a smart man who studied how minds work. Peter had 2 children back on Earth. When he heard about the arrests, his face went white. "Captain, this is very bad," said Peter. "Human children need to play and explore. It is how their brains grow. If you lock them in small cells, you can damage their minds forever." Dr. Rachel Green was the ship's doctor. She was a kind woman who cared about all living things. She had studied alien medicine for many years. "The children will get sick," said Rachel. "Human children need good food, exercise, and love. A prison has none of those things. The stress alone could kill them." Amy felt anger growing in her chest. She had to do something. But her ship was far from Kepler 442b. It would take weeks to get there. "Send messages to every human ship in this sector," she ordered. "Tell them what happened. Ask them to spread the word." Across the galaxy, other humans heard the news. Captain Steve Walker was a trader who sold goods to different alien races. Steve was a big man with a loud voice and a big heart. He knew aliens from many worlds. Steve was on the planet Xerion trading with the Cathera when he heard about the children. The Cathera were tall aliens with golden fur and sharp teeth. They looked scary, but they were good people. They were also fierce fighters who protected their young at all costs. "The humans arrested children?" asked Zarathis, the Cathara war leader. She had bright yellow eyes and long claws. "For what crime?" "They touched a sacred stone while playing," said Steve. "They did not know it was important." Zarathis stood up quickly. Her fur stood on end. Her eyes burned with anger. "This is wrong," she growled. "Children do not understand such things. They learn by touching and seeing. To punish them is evil." Other Kithara heard the news. They began to pace and snarl. The Kithara had a saying, "Touch a child with harm and face our claws." They believed that all children were precious no matter what race they came from. "We must act," said Zarathis. "No child should suffer for being a child." On the research station New Geneva, Dr. Maria Santos was working late in her lab. Maria studied how different alien minds worked. She knew more about alien psychology than almost anyone. When Maria heard about the arrests, she began gathering information. She collected data about human children and how they grow. She found studies about play and learning. She gathered proof that children need freedom to develop properly. "Most aliens do not understand human children," she said to herself. "They lay eggs and leave them, or their young grow up in days instead of years. They think human children are just small adults." Maria began writing a report. She explained how human brains take 20 years to fully grow. She showed how children learn by exploring and making mistakes. She proved that punishing children for natural behavior was like punishing them for breathing. Far away on Kepler 442b, the parents of the arrested children were suffering. Lisa Sullivan cried every day. She could not eat or sleep. Her daughter, Katie, was gone and there was nothing she could do. Carlos Martinez was angry. He wanted to fight the aliens who took his son Ben, but he knew that would only make things worse. Instead, he organized the other parents. They met every day to plan and hope. "We have to trust that help is coming," said Carlos. "Our children are strong. They will survive this." But secretly, Carlos was very worried. He knew that Ben was a curious boy who asked many questions. In a prison, asking questions could get you in trouble. On the moon, Kappa 3, the children were locked in Detention Facility 7. The prison was a dark gray building with thick walls and small windows. Inside, the halls were cold and empty. Katie Sullivan sat in a small cell with metal walls. The bed was hard and the blanket was thin. The food they gave her was gray mush that tasted like nothing. She had not seen the other children since they arrived. Katie was scared, but she tried to be brave. She knew her mother was worried about her. She knew Commander Morrison was trying to help. She had to stay strong until they found a way to free her. In the cell next to Katie, Ben Martinez was writing on the wall with a small stone. He was making marks to count the days. He was also writing down everything he remembered about Earth and home. He did not want to forget. Emma Foster was in a cell down the hall. The 8-year-old girl cried herself to sleep every night. She did not understand why she was here. She just wanted to go home to her parents. The prison guards were Zelathi soldiers. They did not talk to the children. They brought food twice a day, and that was all. They did not care that the children were scared and alone. Meanwhile, the news continued to spread. On the planet Valthari Prime, the ancient alien philosophers heard about the arrests. The Valthari were very old and very wise. They spent their time thinking about right and wrong. Elder Zendara was the oldest of the Valthari. He had lived for 3,000 years. When he heard about the human children, he was troubled. "This does not seem just," he said to his council. Children who do not know they are breaking a law should not be punished as if they did know. The Valthari began to study human development. They were amazed by what they learned. Human children took so long to grow up. Their brains changed and grew for many years. They learned by playing and exploring, not by being taught rules. These are not small criminals, said Zendara. These are developing minds learning about their world. To imprison them is to punish them for being what they are meant to be. On the water world of Luminara, the peaceful Luminari heard the news. The Luminari were blue-skinned aliens who valued kindness above all else. They had never heard of anyone arresting children before. This troubles our hearts, said Speaker Aelwyn. If children cannot be children, what hope is there for any of us? The Luminari began preparing medical supplies. They knew that if the human children were freed, they would need care and healing. Even the warrior race called the Draconis Empire was upset by the news. The Draconis were large, lizard-like aliens who valued strength and honor, but they also protected the weak and innocent. Cowards attack children, growled War Chief Thorak. This Korath Prime has no honor. If he will not free them, we will make him. Back on Captain Richardson's ship, more messages were coming in. Alien races from across the galaxy were expressing shock and anger about the arrests. Many were offering to help. Captain, said Peter Chang, I think we started something big. The aliens are more upset about this than I expected. Amy smiled for the first time in days. Good. Maybe together we can save those kids. She ordered her ship to change course toward Kepler 442b. Other human ships were doing the same, but they would not be alone. Alien ships were also heading toward the colony world. The galaxy was waking up to the injustice, and when the galaxy got angry, things changed fast. 3 weeks had passed since the children were taken. On the moon, Kappa 3, the prison was cold and quiet. The 8 human children were getting weaker every day. The food was bad, and there was no sunlight. The cells were too small, and the guards were mean. Katie Sullivan had lost weight. Her red hair was dirty, and her clothes were torn. But her spirit was still strong. She had figured out how to tap on the walls to talk to the other children. She used a simple code that Ben had taught her. Ben Martinez was in the cell next to her. He was very smart and had been teaching the others through the wall tapping. He showed them how to exercise in their small cells. He told them stories to keep their minds busy. We have to stay strong, Ben tapped to Katie. Help is coming. I know it is. But Ben was worried about the younger children. Emma Foster was only 8 years old. She was getting sick from the stress and bad food. Tommy Chen had stopped talking. Sarah Johnson was having bad dreams every night. The prison warden was a cruel Zalathi named Vextar. He was even meaner than Korath Prime. He thought all prisoners were garbage, even children. He gave them the worst food and the smallest cells. Human young are weak, Vextar told his guards. They cry too much. Maybe prison will make them tough. But Vextar did not understand human children. He did not know that stress could damage their growing brains. He did not care that they needed love and kindness to develop properly. Far away in space, a large ship was approaching the Kepler 442 system. It was a Kithara battlecruiser called the Flame Talon. The ship was huge and powerful, with weapons that could destroy planets. War Mother Zarathis stood on the bridge of her ship. She was tall and strong, with golden fur and bright yellow eyes. Her claws were sharp and her teeth were white. She wore armor decorated with the symbols of her many victories. Zarathis had fought in 100 battles. She had defeated pirates and criminals across the galaxy, but she had never been as angry as she was now. Someone had imprisoned children. In Kithara culture, this was the worst crime possible. How long until we reach the system? She asked her. Navigation officer. 6 hours, War Mother, came the reply. Zarathis nodded. She had been traveling for 3 weeks to get here. Every day she got more angry thinking about the human children locked in cages. The Kithara had a strong belief about children. All young creatures were sacred, no matter what race they came from. To harm a child was to invite the fury of the entire Kithara race. They would fight to the death to protect any young creature. "Send a message to this Koreth Prime," ordered Zarathis. "Tell him the Kithara are coming. Tell him to free the children or face our wrath." On Kepler 442b, Koreth Prime received the message. His gray face showed no emotion, but inside he was worried. The Kithara were fierce warriors. They had never lost a battle. If they wanted the children freed, they could take them by force. But Koreth Prime was stubborn. He believed in following rules no matter what. The children had broken galactic law. They must serve their punishment. "Send a reply," he told his communication officer. "Tell the Kithara that galactic law cannot be changed by threats. The prisoners will serve their full sentence." When Zarathis got this message, she roared with anger. The sound echoed through her ship. Her crew knew that sound. It meant blood would flow soon. "Prepare for battle," she ordered. "If this fool will not see reason, we will make him see it." But Zarathis was not the only one coming to help. Captain Amy Richardson's ship was also approaching the system. So were ships from other human colonies. Word had spread across the galaxy, and many alien races were sending help. The Valthari had sent their wisest philosophers. The Luminari had sent medical ships. Even the Draconis Empire had sent warships. The peaceful Mokari had sent their best. Scientists with proof that imprisoning children was harmful to their development. On the research station New Geneva, Dr. Maria Santos was working day and night. She had finished her report about human children. It was thousands of pages long and proved that human children needed freedom to grow properly. "This should convince anyone with a brain," she said to herself. She sent copies to every alien government in the galaxy. When the Valthari philosophers read Dr. Santos's report, they were amazed. They had never known that any race took so long to mature. Human children were like nothing they had ever seen before. Elder Zendara called an emergency meeting of the Valthari Council. The council chamber was filled with ancient aliens who had lived for thousands of years. "My friends," said Zendara, "we have learned something incredible about the humans. Their young do not mature for 20 years. Their brains grow and change during this time. They learn by exploring and playing, not by following rules." The other Valthari were shocked. In their culture, young ones were born fully mature. They could not imagine creatures that needed so long to develop. "This means the imprisoned children were acting according to their nature," continued Zendara. "They were doing what their biology requires them to do. To punish them for this is like punishing a bird for flying or a fish for swimming." The Valthari Council reached a decision. They would declare the imprisonment of human children to be against natural law. This was a big deal because the Valthari were respected by all races for their wisdom. The news spread quickly. When other alien races heard that the Valthari opposed the imprisonment, they began to take sides. Most aliens had never thought about the rights of children before, but now they were being forced to think about it. On the water world Luminara, Speaker Ael Wynn was preparing medical teams. The Luminari were healers, and they knew the children would need care when they were freed. "The young ones will be traumatized," Ael Wynn told her people. "We must be ready to heal their minds and bodies." The Luminari began loading their ships with medicine and healing equipment. They also brought their best child psychologists, even though they had never treated human children before. In the Draconis Empire, War Chief Thorek was gathering his fleet. The Draconis were dragon-like aliens who valued honor above all else. They saw the imprisonment of children as deeply dishonorable. "Any race that attacks children is weak and cowardly," Thorek declared to his warriors. "We will show them the price of such cowardice." The Draconis fleet was powerful and frightening. Their ships looked like metal dragons flying through space. When the Draconis came to fight, few enemies survived. Back on Kepler 442b, Commander Morrison was getting reports about all the ships heading toward his planet. He was amazed by how many alien races were coming to help. "I never expected this," he told his staff. "The whole galaxy is rallying to save our children." But Morrison was also worried. With so many warships approaching, there could be a battle. If fighting started, people would die. He had to find a way to free the children without starting a B. War Morrison sent messages to all the approaching ships. He asked them to let him try diplomacy first. He wanted to avoid bloodshed if possible. On the Cathara battlecruiser, Zarathis received Morrison's message. She respected the human commander for trying to avoid war, but she would not wait forever. "The human may try his words," she told her crew, "but if the children are not freed soon, we will free them ourselves." Meanwhile, on Korath Prime's staff, some Zalathi were beginning to have doubts. They had never seen so many alien races unite for one cause. Maybe they were wrong about the children. Ambassador Nelrath was Korath Prime's deputy. She was smarter than her boss and could see that the situation was getting dangerous. "Sir," she said to Korath Prime, "perhaps we should reconsider. The entire galaxy seems to be against us. Maybe we made a mistake." But Korath Prime refused to listen. "The law is the law," he said coldly. "I will not change it because others threaten us." Nelrath knew her boss was making a terrible mistake, but there was nothing she could do. Korath Prime was in charge, and he would not change his mind. On the prison moon, the children were getting worse. Emma Foster was very sick now. She had a fever and could barely eat. The prison doctor was a robot that did not understand human medicine. Katie could hear Emma crying through the walls. It broke her heart. She tapped messages to Ben. "Emma is very sick," she tapped. "I know," Ben tapped back. "We have to do something." Ben had been thinking about escape. The prison was built for adult aliens, not human children. Maybe they could find a way out. "Tonight," he tapped to Katie. "When the guards change shifts, pass the word to the others." Katie began tapping the message. Down the line, cell by cell, the word spread. Tonight they would try to escape. It was dangerous and probably impossible. But they had to try. Emma was too sick to escape with them. But maybe if they got out, they could bring help back for her. As night fell, on the prison moon, 8 human children prepared for the most dangerous thing they had ever attempted. They did not know that help was already on the way. They only knew they could not wait any longer. In space above them, the first alien ships were arriving in the Kepler 442 system. The Cathara battlecruiser dropped out of faster-than-light travel, with a flash of energy. War Mother Zarathis stood on her bridge and looked at the planet below. Somewhere on that moon were 8 human children who needed her help. "Soon, little ones," she whispered. "Soon you will be free." The escape attempt began at midnight. Ben Martinez had been watching the guards for weeks. He knew they changed shifts every 6 hours. For exactly 10 minutes, the hallway was empty. Ben had found a loose panel in his cell wall. Human children were smaller than adult aliens, so they could fit through spaces that adults could not. He squeezed through the opening and dropped into the hallway. The prison was dark and quiet. Ben moved like a shadow toward Katie's cell. He found the control panel and pressed buttons until her door opened. "How did you do that?" whispered Katie. "I watched the guards," said Ben. "The code is simple. Come on, we have to hurry." They moved down the hallway, opening cell doors. Tommy. Chen came out first, then Sarah Johnson. Danny Brooks was next, followed by Lisa Parker and Alex Williams. When they reached Emma Foster's cell, they found her lying on the floor. She was burning with fever and could barely open her eyes. "Emma, we have to go," whispered Katie. "I can't," Emma said weakly. "Too tired, too sick." Ben picked up the little girl. She was light as a feather. The poor food and stress had made her very thin. "I'll carry her," he said. The children moved through the prison corridors. They were looking for a way out, but the prison was like a maze. Every hallway looked the same. They found a maintenance shaft that led to the outer wall. It was very small and dark. One by one, they crawled through it. Ben went last, still carrying Emma. They emerged outside the prison building. The moon's surface was rocky and cold. There was no air to breathe, but the prison had a force field that gave them oxygen. "Which way?" asked Sarah. "I don't know," said Ben, "but we have to try." They began walking across the rocky ground. Behind them, alarms started ringing. The guards had discovered they were missing. Searchlights swept across the moon's surface. The children hid behind rocks, but there was nowhere to go. The moon was empty except for the prison. Within an hour, the guards found them. Emma had collapsed and could not walk anymore. The other children were cold and scared. "Back to your cells," ordered the guard captain. "You will be punished for this escape attempt." The children were dragged back to the prison. This time, they were put in even smaller cells with thicker walls. Emma was taken to the prison medical bay, but it was not equipped for human children. When news of the escape attempt reached space, it made the situation much worse. War Mother Zarathis was furious when she heard that the children had been so desperate they tried to escape on an airless moon. "Enough!" she roared. "I will not wait any longer." She opened a communication channel to Korath Prime on the planet below. "Zalathi coward," she snarled. "Free the children now, or I will come down there and free them myself." Korath Prime appeared on the screen. His gray face was calm, but his black eyes showed fear. "You cannot threaten the Galactic Council," he said. "I am enforcing galactic law." "Your law is wrong," said Zarathis. "Children should not be caged like animals. The Cathara have spoken, and the Valthari agree," said another voice. Elder Zendara's ship had arrived in the system. The ancient philosopher appeared on another screen. "We have studied human development," said Zendara. "These children were acting according to their nature. To punish them is to punish them for existing." More ships arrived. Captain Amy Richardson's human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Luminari medical ships appeared next. Then came the Draconis Empire's warships, looking like metal dragons. Soon, dozens of ships surrounded Kepler 442b. They came from many different races, but they all wanted the same thing: free the children. On the planet below, Commander Morrison felt hope for the first time in weeks. But he also felt fear. With so many warships in one place, a fight could start easily. He called an emergency meeting with Korath Prime and the alien fleet commanders. "We need to solve this peacefully," Morrison said. "Fighting will not help the children." "The children should never have been imprisoned," said Zarathis. Her image filled the screen with her golden fur and fierce eyes. "The law must be followed," insisted Korath Prime. "Whose law?" asked Elder Zendara. "The law you created does not account for species with extended development periods. It is flawed and unjust." Dr. Maria Santos joined the call from New Geneva. She had been waiting for this moment. "I have spent weeks studying this case," she said. "I have proof that imprisoning human children causes permanent brain damage. You are not just punishing them. You are destroying their minds," she transmitted her research data to all the ships. The alien commanders read it with growing horror. The Mokari scientists confirmed that the research was correct. "This is barbaric," said Speaker Aelwyn of the Luminari. "No civilized being would damage a developing mind." "The Draconis Empire considers this an act of war against children," growled War Chief Thorak. "Release them, or face our wrath." Ambassador Nelrath, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke up. "Sir," she said to Korath Prime, "perhaps we should contact the Zalathi High Council. This situation is beyond our authority." Korath Prime did not want to admit he was wrong, but he could see that the entire galaxy was against him. Even some of his own people were having doubts. "Very well," he said coldly. "I will contact the High Council." The call ended, but the alien ships remained in orbit. They were not leaving, without the children. On the prison moon, Emma Foster was getting worse. The robot doctor did not know how to treat human children. Her fever was very high, and she was having trouble breathing. Katie could hear the commotion in the prison. Guards were running around and talking loudly. Something was happening, but she did not know what. Through her cell wall, she tapped to Ben. "Do you hear that? Something is different." "Maybe help is coming," Ben tapped back. But he was worried about Emma. He had not heard any sound from her cell since they were brought back. Hours passed. The tension in space grew stronger. More alien ships arrived. The human parents on Kepler 442b gathered in the town square, hoping for news. Lisa Sullivan stood with the other parents. She had not slept in days. Her daughter Katie was somewhere on that moon, locked in a cage like an animal. "They have to free them," she said to Carlos Martinez. "Look how many ships are here. The whole galaxy wants our children freed." Carlos nodded, but he was worried too. His son Ben was smart and brave, but he was still just a boy. How much could he take? Finally, a new ship arrived in the system. It was larger than all the others and had the symbols of the Zalathi High Council. Ambassador Supreme Veltar was on board. Veltar was older and wiser than Korath Prime. She had served the Galactic Council for 200 years. She had never seen so many alien races united about one issue. Veltar called for an immediate conference. Representatives from every ship were invited to attend. The meeting would be held on the neutral space station orbiting the planet. Commander Morrison, Korath Prime, War Mother Zarathis, Elder Zendara, and the other leaders gathered in the station's main conference room. "This situation has gone too far," said Veltar. "I have read Dr. Santos's research. I have heard from dozens of alien races. It is clear that we made a mistake." Korath Prime stood up angrily. "The law was followed correctly. These humans broke our sacred law. Children who do not understand law cannot break it meaningfully," said Veltar. "We created that law for adult criminals, not for developing minds." Dr. Rachel Green, the human doctor, was allowed to speak. "The children are dying," she said simply. "Every day they stay in that prison causes more damage. The youngest girl is critically ill. If she does not get proper medical care soon, she may not survive." The room fell silent. The idea that a child might die because of their law horrified many of the aliens present. War Mother Zarathis stood up. Her claws extended and her eyes burned with fury. "If that child dies, I will hold every one of you responsible," she growled. "The Kithara do not forgive those who kill children." "Nor do the Draconis," added War Chief Thorek. Elder Zendara spoke in his ancient, wise voice. "We stand at a crossroads. We can admit our mistake and fix it, or we can let pride destroy innocent lives. The choice will define what kind of civilization we are." Ambassador Supreme Veltar looked around the room. She could see that opinion was strongly against Korath Prime. Even her own people were beginning to turn against the imprisonment. "I am ordering the immediate release of the human children," she announced. "They will be transferred to the Luminary medical ships for treatment." Korath Prime's face went pale. "You cannot do this. I am the administrator of this world. And I am your superior," said Veltar firmly. "My word is final." Outside in space, the alien ships received the news. Cheers went up on every bridge. The children would finally be free. But on the prison moon, Emma Foster's condition was getting critical. The question now was whether help would arrive in time to save her. The rescue ships moved fast toward the prison moon. War Mother Zarathis led the mission herself. Her shuttle flew alongside luminary medical ships and human rescue craft. Dr. Rachel Green was on one of the medical ships with equipment to treat. Human children. When they reached the prison, Warden Vextar tried to stop them. "You cannot enter this facility without proper authorization," he said. Zarathis pushed past him like he was made of paper. Her golden fur was standing up, and her claws were out. Behind her came Luminari doctors and human rescue workers. "Where are the children?" she demanded. Vextar pointed down a dark hallway. "Cell block 7. The rescue team ran through the prison corridors. When they reached the cell block, they found 8 small cells with thick metal doors. From inside came weak voices calling for help. Dr. Rachel Green opened the first cell and found Katie Sullivan. The 12-year-old girl was thin and dirty, but her eyes were still bright. "Are you real?" asked Katie. "Are we really going home?" "Yes, sweetheart," said Dr. Green. "You are safe now." One by one, they opened all the cells. Ben Martinez stumbled out and hugged Dr. Green. Tommy Chen was quiet and scared. Sarah Johnson could barely walk. Danny Brooks and Lisa Parker held hands and cried. Alex Williams asked if his parents were okay, but Emma Foster was in the worst condition. The 8-year-old girl was burning with fever and could not stand up. Dr. Green picked her up gently. "We need to get her to the medical ship immediately," she said. Zarathis looked at the tiny girl in the doctor's arms. Emma was so small and sick. The Cathera warrior felt rage burning in her chest. How could anyone do this to a child? She whispered. The children were carried to the medical ships. The Luminari doctors began treating them right away. Emma was put in a special medical pod that could monitor her condition and give her the exact medicine she needed. Speaker Ale Wynn worked with Dr. Green to treat the children. The Luminari were expert healers, but they had never treated human children before. "Their minds are damaged," said Ale Wynn sadly. "The stress and fear have hurt their developing brains. It will take time to heal." "But they will heal?" asked Dr. Green. "With love and care, yes," said Ale Wynn. "Children are strong. They can recover from much if they feel safe again." The medical ships flew back to Kepler 442b. On the planet below, the parents were waiting at the spaceport. When the ships landed, Lisa Sullivan ran to meet them. Katie came down the ramp slowly. She was thinner than before, and her eyes looked older. But when she saw her mother, she smiled for the first time in weeks. "Mom!" Katie cried, running into her mother's arms. Lisa held her daughter tight and cried. "I thought I would never see you again." Carlos Martinez found his son Ben. The boy was trying to be strong, but he broke down when he saw his father. "I tried to take care of the others," Ben said through his tears. "I tried to keep them safe." "You did good, son," said Carlos. "You did real good." All the parents were reunited with their children. There were tears and hugging and promises that this would never happen again. Emma Foster was taken directly to the hospital. Her parents stayed by her side as human and alien doctors worked to save her life. Her fever was very high, and her body was weak from malnutrition. Dr. Green and the Luminari doctors worked for hours. Slowly, Emma's condition began to improve. The fever went down, and she began to breathe easier. When Emma finally opened her eyes, she saw her parents and smiled weakly. "I want to go home," she whispered. "Soon, baby," said her mother. "Soon." News of the children's rescue spread across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched the images of thin, sick children being reunited with their families. Many aliens had never seen anything so heartbreaking. The galactic news networks interviewed alien leaders about the crisis. Most expressed shock and anger about what had happened. "This must never happen again," said Elder Zendara on galactic television. "We must create laws to protect all developing beings, not just adults." War Mother Zarathis was even more direct. "Any being who harms a child will answer to the Cathara," she declared. "We will hunt them across the galaxy if necessary." The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Delegates from hundreds of worlds gathered to discuss new laws about, children and justice. Dr. Maria Santos presented her research to the full council. She showed how different species had different development periods. She proved that children needed special protection under the law. We cannot treat all beings the same, she explained. A human child is not a small adult. They are a developing being who learns through exploration and play. To punish them for acting according to their nature is wrong. The council voted to create the Universal Protection of Developing Beings Act. The new law said that no child of any species could be imprisoned for crimes they committed while their brains were still developing. The law was named the Sullivan Protocols, after Katie Sullivan, who had become a symbol of the injustice. Back on Kepler 442b, life slowly returned to normal. The children were getting better with help from human and alien doctors. They had regular therapy sessions to help them recover from their trauma. Katie Sullivan was doing well. She was eating better and gaining weight. But she still had nightmares about the prison sometimes. "I keep dreaming about the cold cell," she told Dr. Green during a therapy session. "That's normal," said Dr. Green. "Your mind is processing what happened to you. The dreams will get better with time." Ben Martinez was helping other children who had been through trauma. He started a support group for kids who had experienced difficult things. "We understand each other," he explained to his father. "We know what it feels like to be scared and alone." Emma Foster took the longest to recover. She had been the sickest and the youngest, but with love and care, she slowly got better. The luminary doctors said she would make a full recovery. Commander Morrison worked with the Alien Coalition to create new programs on Kepler 442b. They built cultural centers where humans and aliens could learn about each other. "We have to understand each other better," Morrison explained. "That way something like this will never happen again." Koreth Prime was removed from his position and sent back to the Zalathi homeworld. Ambassador Nelrath took his place. She was much more understanding of human culture. "We will study your customs," Nelrath promised Morrison. "We will make sure our laws account for the differences between our species." War Mother Zarathis established a permanent Cathera base near Kepler 442b. She said the Cathera would protect human children for as long as humans lived on the world. "Children are the future," she explained. "All children, no matter what species they come from. We will guard them with our lives." The Luminari built a medical center on the planet that specialized in treating children from different species. They trained doctors in multi-species pediatric medicine. The Valthari set up an educational exchange program. Human children could learn about alien cultures, and young aliens could learn about human development. Even the Draconis Empire contributed. They provided security for human colonies and promised to defend any children who were threatened. 6 months after the crisis, Katie Sullivan was invited to speak at the Galactic Council. She was nervous but determined to tell her story. "We were just playing," she told the assembled delegates. "We did not know the stone was special. We were just being kids." She looked around the great chamber filled with aliens from hundreds of worlds. "Kids make mistakes because that is how we learn. If you punish us for learning, you stop us from growing into good adults. Please remember that children are not small criminals. We are the future." The chamber erupted in applause. Delegates from across the galaxy stood and cheered for the brave human girl. After her speech, Katie was approached by many alien delegates. They wanted to learn more about human children and how to protect them. "You have changed the galaxy," Elder Zandara told her. "Because of your courage, millions of children will be safer." Katie smiled. "I just wanted people to understand that kids are different. We need time to grow and learn." The crisis on Kepler 442b became a turning point in galactic history. It was the first time so many alien races had united to protect children. It showed that despite their differences, all civilized beings could agree on protecting the innocent. Human colonies across the galaxy became safer places for children. The alien races that had helped during the crisis became humanity's strongest allies. The 8 children who had been imprisoned became heroes. Their suffering had led to better laws and greater understanding between species. Years later, when Katie Sullivan became a diplomat, she often told the story of what happened on Kepler 442b. She would end her speeches with the same words. Children are not just the future of one species. They are the future of all civilization. When we protect them, we protect hope itself. And across the galaxy, beings from 1,000 different worlds would nod in agreement. They had learned that some things are more important than law or tradition. Some things are worth fighting for. The protection of children was one of those things. The galaxy was a better place because 8 human children had touched a stone while playing. Their innocent mistake had taught an entire civilization the true meaning of justice and compassion, and in the end, that was the greatest victory of all. The space station Nexus Prime floated in the empty darkness between star systems. It was huge, bigger than most cities on Earth. The station had been built by alien races many years ago as a place where different species could meet and talk without fighting. Katie Morrison looked out the window of her small ship as they got closer to the station. She was the human ambassador, chosen to speak for all of humanity in these peace talks. Next to her sat Admiral Jack Sullivan, a man with gray hair and tired eyes who had fought in many space battles. Behind them, 12 other humans made up their small group. "Look at the size of that thing," said Ryan Torres, a young officer who worked for the Admiral. "Must be 50 miles across." Admiral Sullivan nodded, but said nothing. He had seen many alien stations before, and they all tried to make humans feel small. This one was no different. Their ship, Liberty's Dawn, was tiny compared to the other vessels docked at the station. Huge alien ships hung in space like sleeping giants. The Zalari ships looked like golden spears with sharp points. The Vorthak vessels were dark and covered in what looked like armor. The Chimeri ships were old and strange, with curves that hurt to look at. 12 different species, Katie said, reading from her notes. All of them older than us. All of them stronger than us. At least, that's what they think. The docking process took an hour. Alien technology guided their ship into a berth designed for smaller vessels. As they walked through the airlock, Katie felt the artificial gravity pull at her feet. The air smelled different here, like metal and something else she could not name. The meeting hall was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high that Katie could barely see it. 12 different sections had been built for the 12 alien races. Each section was designed to make that species comfortable. The Zalari area glowed with golden light. The Vorthak section was dark and cold. The Chimeri space had strange floating platforms that moved without making sound. The human section was small and plain, just chairs and a table made from Earth materials. Katie thought it was perfect. Humans did not need fancy decorations to prove their worth. One by one, the alien representatives entered the hall. Katie watched them carefully, trying to read their faces and body language. The Zalari moved like dancers, tall and graceful with skin that seemed to glow. The Vorthak walked like soldiers, their armor clicking with each step. The Chimeri floated rather than walked, their long robes hiding whatever was underneath. Lord High Chancellor Vexthul of the Zalari Empire was the first to speak. He was 8 feet tall with golden skin and eyes that changed color when he moved. His voice was smooth and musical, but Katie heard the threat underneath. "Welcome, young humans," he said, looking down at Katie and her team. "We gather today to discuss your place in our galaxy. For too long, your species has expanded without proper guidance. You build colonies where you should not. You claim systems that belong to older, wiser races." Katie kept her face calm, but inside she felt anger rising. The Zalari had attacked human colonies and killed innocent people, Now they talked about guidance and wisdom. The Vorthak representative spoke next. Commander Zektor was shorter than the Zalari, but twice as wide, covered in black armor that made him look like a walking tank. His voice sounded like grinding metal. "Humans reproduce too fast," he said, reading from a glowing screen. "In 50 years, you have built 30 colonies. This rate of expansion threatens galactic stability. We calculate that restrictions must be applied immediately." Katie took notes, writing down every insult and threat. The Vorthak were known for their love of numbers and calculations. Everything was data to them, including human lives. The Chimeri elder spoke last. None of the humans could pronounce her name, so they called her the Speaker. She was ancient, possibly thousands of years old, and her voice whispered like wind through dead leaves. "Young ones always test their limits," she said, not looking, directly at the humans. "They push and push until the universe pushes back. The wise learn to bend before they break. The foolish snap like dry wood." Katie knew the alien delegates expected her to be scared or impressed by their words. Instead, she felt something else: determination. These aliens thought they could bully humanity into submission just because they were older and had bigger ships. Admiral Sullivan leaned over and whispered in her ear. "The Zalari have 6,000 ships in their main fleet. The Vorthak have 4,000. The Chimeri numbers are unknown, but intel suggests at least 3,000. Katie nodded. She already knew the numbers. What the aliens did not know was that humanity had been preparing for this day for years. Every human colony, every mining station, every transport ship had been building toward one goal: survival. The formal presentations continued for hours. 9 other alien species took turns explaining why humanity needed to accept limits on their growth, their technology, and their freedom. Each speech was polite on the surface, but carried the same message: submit or be destroyed. When the last alien finished speaking, Katie stood up. The entire hall fell silent. Hundreds of alien eyes focused on her, waiting to hear humanity surrender. "Thank you all for your presentations," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "The human delegation requests time to consider your proposals. We will need to discuss these matters among ourselves." Lord High Chancellor Vexthul smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. "Of course, Ambassador Morrison, take all the time you need. We understand that accepting reality can be difficult for younger species." Katie did not respond to the insult. Instead, she gathered her papers and walked toward the exit. Admiral Sullivan and the rest of the human delegation followed her. As they left the hall, Katie could hear the alien representatives talking among themselves. They sounded pleased, confident that humanity would have no choice but to accept their terms. What they did not know was that the real discussion had already happened months ago on Earth. The decision had been made by people much smarter and more experienced than Katie. She was not here to negotiate. She was here to deliver a message. As the doors closed behind the human delegation, Katie allowed herself a small smile. The aliens thought they held all the cards in this game. They were about to learn how wrong they were.